Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So today in this video we'll look at some of the more intermediate topics like what are variables, what are constants, what are keyword, what are identifier. Then we'll look at some of the data types like string, int, double, bool, and then we'll use some of the keywords like where and use dynamic data type. We'll use where and what we'll see the difference between both where and dynamic keyword. We'll use this keyword like final and constant, all of these things. So in the last video, in the last part, we saw a normal hello world program. Then we assigned some of the values to the name, like we used the std in and std out rather than just printing using the print command, print keyword. We used a different method that was like std out dot write, and we took input from the console. We took input from the terminal by using the keyword like std std in, then read line. That's it. And then you also observed that we were using importing some of the libraries. So that was completely off that part. Now, in this video, we'll talk about the things that we discussed at the first, like the keyword identifier and data types, all this stuff. So before opening VS Code, I would like to show you something. So this is the Dart pad. So if you don't have any ID, if you don't want to use VS Code or Android Studio, then you just need to come here at Dart pad, and you can run your code here. Like simply, this is if you run this program, let's wait for the results. Okay, it didn't show anything. But here you can like type your code if you don't want to use VS Code and other things. Okay. You can also write a normal hello world program here also. Okay. So let's move to the VS Code. So this is the new folder that I've created. Let's open it on VS Code. For dot. This is the shortcut for opening VS Code. Let's start with tutorial dot 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 is the extension. Okay, so first of all, we will talk about what are variables. Okay, so variables are like just the name that you are who will store, who will take some of the values. Okay, like in the last video we talked about the name, right? The name was a variable, then it was storing some of the values. Like inside name we were storing Rahul. Okay, so all those things are called variables, which are just a name, just is the identification of any other value. Okay, like we can type here. So like let's create the function void main. Okay, so this is the starting of the program. Now we are doing like uh, string uh, name equals to uh, so this name is a variable. Okay, the value of the local variable name. So this name is the variable. Similarly, if you do find the age equals to 4. So this age is a variable. So now you can see like what is a variable. Okay. Now we'll talk about, you can see the colors are different. Like for string, the color is different. For name, the color is different. For route, the color is different. Okay. So there's a difference between keywords and an identifier. Okay, so if you talk about any programming language, you will see this keyword, you see this difference between keyword as well as identifier. Okay, so anything, any word that has a predefined value in the programming language itself is called a keyword. Like you can see string. So string not is not any word that like we introduced to the programming language, introduced our code. It was already storing some of the it I mean it already have some of the predefined values for itself, like string. So while creating this programming language, the programmer has told like string is a keyword. It has its own value. Okay. And similarly, int. Int here represent integer. Okay. So it has a default value, like it has a default meaning for itself. So these are called keywords. Similarly, if you will do like bool, you can see the color of bool. It's a keyword. Well, at the other time, the things like name, the things like Rahul, things like age, the things like four are the identifiers. Okay, so these values are provided by us, the user. So any value other than these keywords, which has like predefined values, are called identifiers. Other than the predefined values or keywords, all the other things are called identifiers. Okay, so this is the pretty basic difference between keywords and identifiers. Also write it here. First we look at our pad, keyword, is fire. Cool. Now let's do one thing. Why don't we talk about this types? Okay, let's talk about types. Let's talk about data types. Sorry. So there are like several data types in Dart also, like string, int, double, bool. These are like data types. Okay. Now what does string do? String does a string represent text using string type. Int shows you how to use the integer type to represent integer values. Double, that represents fractional numbers, and bool introduce you to the boolean type and how to use logical operators. Okay, how to use logical operators to manipulate boolean values, all the true and false values. Similarly, int has a limit. It has a limit like it does not contains like pretty big numbers, pretty big integers. That's why I use like big int. Okay, well I'll show you everything. Let's clear this once again. So let's start with string. Okay, string or string. Let's call it gender. Okay, yeah. So we are introducing to the program that we have assigned an identifier. It's a value identifier, which is a type of string. Okay, so this gender is a variable. Okay, gender is a variable which is of type string. Okay, now any value that I'll contain for gender will be a string type. Let's look like this. Gender equals to male. Cool. Gender equals to male. So this is like how string. Male is a string. Male is like alphabetically it's string MALE. It doesn't contain any integer. It doesn't contain any float values. It doesn't contain any other boolean values like true or false. That's it. This is all. This is now. Can we assign any other value like 3? No, this is not possible. It will give an error. Error like this. A value of type int cannot be assigned to a variable of type string because we have already mentioned here that gender is a string. And similarly, can we do like gender equals to true? No, this is again wrong because it is of type. boolean. Okay, so we have done like gender equals to male, and if we print gender, so will it give the value right now? I don't think so. Okay, because when we talk about, okay, yeah, it will give the value. Check. Cool. The other thing was like for std in. Okay, for std in, for std out, we were using dollar. I guess let's check this here also whether we are. So it's not possible here. Okay, it was for std, for std out. Cool. So these are like some of the minor things that you need to remember. You need to take care of. Okay. Now, like for gender equals to male, it has been printed. Now, one more thing. So what this part is called declaration. This part is called declaration. Okay. Here we are declaring a variable which is of type string. Here we are assigning the value. Okay. Here we are assigning the value to this declaration. And what are these? These are like comments. And how to do this, which means it will have no value. Okay, it won't give any error because it has no value. It is just like a comment. Okay, like you do comments in social media. That's a different thing. But these are like only comments. It doesn't contain any value for it, and that's why there is the syntax. You have to do this this forward slash for that. If there was like something like this, then it would have given an error because it is like undefined. That's why you're using this. Cool. This is comment. Let's save it. It won't give any error. Man, easy, easy stuff. Programming language is very easy. But as you go to the next level, you go to the medium level, that is where it becomes tough usually. Not so much tough, but it's pretty basic, to be honest. Okay. So we are using two step for declaration and for assigning the value. Can we do it in single step? Yes, of course. So instead of doing this, declaration and assignment both at the same time. Gender equals to it, sprint it, main, easy. See how easy it is. So declaration and assignment of the values are at the same step. Oh, now let's talk about int. Cool. Let's control slash for commenting the whole line. Control slash commenting the whole. Okay. Now let's create a data type of integer. Int x. Okay. So right now it doesn't contain any value. But what if like it's like null? What happens if you like int x? So it won't give any value. This is non-nullable. That's why we can't print anything. That's why it needs a value like 5. Okay. Now, now it is not giving any error. So 5. So this is like integer of type. Similarly, like here we can't do this. X equals to Rahul. It's not possible because data type is completely different. Okay. If it was like, one more thing like for here and not here, we can't give anywhere value like this. Here also, because it is already saying that it is an int type. Okay, so this is how it's done. Relax. Now, once again, we are doing like declaration and the values are giving on the same line. Good. Now, there's a limitation when talking about integer. It can't contain like very big values. See, up to this point, it's fine. But as soon as I do type anything, it's giving me error. But the thing is, it is integer. It is a single number. Then why it is giving an error like this? Let's read the error. The integer literal this cannot be represented in 64 bits. Try using a big int. Okay. So the limit it even when you are using an integer, it has a range from which we can assign these values, like from 0 to this value. Okay, to until the 64 bits. And it's more than 64 bits. See, that's why it's giving error. Now, do we have a solution for that? So the first solution is just remove this 9. Yeah. And the other solution is let's use begin. Okay. Let's copy this number. So even it was suggesting us to use the begin. Okay. Now we can do like big int y. Good. And then we'll do yeah, big int or yeah, let's do it. Int big int y first and give y equals to big int or parse. Here we'll write the number. Okay. And and let's do something like this. Okay. So so this is the part we'll do something like this. Okay, so it's giving an error. So there is some syntax. It's saying that argument int cannot be assigned to parameter type string. Okay. Okay. So integer needs to be go with the string form. Okay, because parsing will what will parsing does is basically it will convert the string into an integer. So at the end of the day, it's like an integer only. Okay, so this value will be changed into integer. Okay, so what we can do is print y. That's it. Control S. See, see you can see the difference. Like for integer, it was not going more than 64 bits, and for big int, it's going easily. And even if like you can use a small integer also again, like 5, once again it won't give any error. Okay, you just go any other value like no matter how much it is. So right now it is saying like string type, but by parsing it is giving this value in the big int form, in the integer form. Okay, so you can do something like this. Any number, it won't give any error because in like real world program integers are like way longer than this. Even if you are like even in cryptography, the key size is like very big. So this is where it can help. Okay, it's like it is giving like something a Flutter running away. This is like what could not pass begin. Okay, it oh this why this was like S. By mistake I did an essay. So yeah, my bad. The S I was amazed to look at this error. Okay, so by mistake I did S and it was unable to parse it because it was like in the string. Although this completely all of this is in a string, but this string can be parsed. But S Like what will we give value to an s? See? So this is like you have to look at the minor things. You have to look at the minor mistakes. Okay. So this was integer. Let's carry on with our double. What is double? Okay. So double what z? Double z. Okay. Now in this we can either give this number like this. This is also fine. But double is mostly about for the floating numbers. So that's decimal like 0.67. So it was not possible with integer. Okay. It is not possible with integer. It's giving an error. That's why we need double it. Even though you can write integer again, it won't give any error. Let's print this. Okay. And print the semicolon. Say 6.7. Let's create one more double that is like a. Let's, and let's give a value like 23. Okay. Control and I print a. We have semicolon. This is the syntax that we have to follow. See, even though we are writing an integer, it is still printing in the decimal format. This is the magic of double keyword. Okay, no matter whether you write it in integer format or like the point format, decimal format, it will at the end of the day it will create it in a decimal. That's why we are 23.6. Okay, so I know for some people it will like, why are you wasting your time in these concepts? But keep once again keeping the things in mind, like someone enrolling in this course is like pretty big, pretty like a starter for pretty new to this stuff. He doesn't have much idea about, or she doesn't have any much idea about programming language. So keeping that thing in our mind, we are doing this. Okay, it will basically take like 1 or 2 videos, or and at maximum like 3 videos of this course, and then we can like focus on the main UI UX. But even if you are done with UI, but these are the things, because once again I'm repeating this again and again. Why? Because I want you to like understand these concepts. Because at the end of the day, even when we are creating app, we are creating UI, we have to create classes, right? Later in this course, we'll talk about classes. We'll write the programming language. With Dart, we'll create this oops, and oops, we have classes. We use keywords like extends. So that's fine. That's the need of Dart here. Okay. So this is double, and you can't provide any string values here. Like you given it. Okay. And once again, like if you do something like this, once again, it has a limitation. Okay. Cannot be represented as a 64-bit, more than 64-bit. Yeah. So that's why similar to the integer case also. But it's giving another. Okay, so that's with double. And now let's talk about bool control slash. That's a shortcut for like commenting all the lines. Select the part and just do control slash. Then we have bool. Bool A equals to true. This is the use of bool, true or false. Later, if you have any conditional statement, or if there isn't any iteration loop, so at that time these will use like for true and false usually helps us. Similarly, bool D equals to false. True. And then we'll print A sorry, get won't be expect it's printing true or false. If we'll do anything other like 3, it will give an error. 1, it will give an error because it is an integer. Okay, so integer value cannot be assigned to a boolean variable. True and false. That's it. Pretty easy concept. Cool. If there's, I don't think there will be much confusion regarding this. Okay, so these are the data types: string, int, double, and root. Now you might be thinking like in the last video we were using something like var name, right? Var name equals to Rahul, R capital. So yes, we were using something like this. Now what is this var? Var is like for variable. Okay, like if you don't have any idea about like what will be the data type, just look at these things like there's like a function that is giving an output and you don't really know the what's that value. We don't have any idea like whether it is like alphabet, whether it's like number, or whether it's like alphanumeric like this Rahul 1 to 3, 2 1 4 2 3. Okay, at this case we'll use var for alphanumeric values. For a string, basically it's like a string. See, it's string. So when we don't have any idea about like what will be the value, then just go with the var. Var itself stands for variable. Okay. And the good thing about this is like var name, and then name can be changed to something like so sorry. So var name can be changed to something like this. Into fish. So, yeah, can be changed to it is. Okay. Even when we are using like integer, like when we are using like int x equals to 4, 9, then once again x can be changed to like 10. Okay. So these values can be changed again and again. No issue. But the thing with var is just like the any other data type, if you'll do something like this equals to 4, it will give an error. Okay, it is giving an error value because at the first statement itself, when we are like declaring the value and assigning the value, initializing, so it says like this name is now is of string. This name is of now string type. Although we are using var, but once again it's like of string type. Okay, like if it was something like this, now it's not giving any error because it's a variable now. It's like a dynamic value. Now it's like you can say dynamic name. Earlier when it was something like this, the 4 was giving error because at the first at this in the initial line, okay, even at the time of initialization, you told it like it is string. Okay, but when we are removing it, and it's not giving any error. Now what that means is like it's a dynamic data type. Okay, dynamic name. You can change its value again and again. Now you can give it the value of true. Okay. Now if you print name as the last value is true, so it will give true. Why don't we copy this line at every step? Control C, Control V, Control V, Control S. See, it is 4 and true. And let's do one thing. Let's do like Rahul. It will give an error. debug anyway. Where a value type it can be assigned to a variable of type string. These are some of the common things that you need to understand. Okay. So right now it's not dynamic. Okay. So if you're not providing any values like this, if you're not even at this initial rule, that's why there's a difference between declaration and initialization. There is always a meaning behind every word. Okay, that's why we are saying like you have to keep once again look at these minor things. You have to analyze and observe these things just to be perfect with the programming language. Because once you are done with the basic, then most of the time it's like these stuff only. But the thing is, we do it in the for loop, we do a conditional statement. But at the very end, at the very core, these are the basic things that you need to be like focused upon. Okay. So when we are doing something like this, okay, when we are doing something like this, was saying that it is a dynamic name. So instead of where, we're dynamic. Easy stuff, very easy stuff. Once again, if we'll do like something like this, we'll print, won't give any error. This is the dynamic variable. Okay, dynamic will use dynamic when we don't have any idea about what actually the value is, because the value changed again and again, again and again. Okay, so this is the use of dynamic. How dynamic data types are different from static data types. Okay, these are like pretty easy stuff. Okay, now what we can do is this part is also done. Let's change it to the identifiers, data types. Data types we look at int, look at string, we look at etc. Then we looked at where, like dynamic. Okay. Now let's look at final and const. Okay. Because sometimes in the very first video, I guess in the very first or maybe like second in which we created the demo app, we're using constant. Okay. So let's first start with final control slash fine. Okay, that's final. We will call it name. Okay, right now it doesn't have any value. Okay, which means it's like a dynamic name. You can give any value to this file name. Okay, but once you give any value to this, now it cannot be changed. Now this is the permanent value. We are telling the program in the runtime that name is a finalized. We have finalized the value. It cannot be changed again and again. Throughout the whole program, throughout the whole execution, throughout the whole process, it will remain Rahul. Name has a value, it is Rahul, and it will remain Rahul till the end. Okay, let's try to change this to Ramesh. It's giving an error. The final variable can only be set once. Okay, and also like it was string, so you can was send string. Okay, it won't give any error. And string name. Now instead of making it dynamic, that's like static. We have already provided like the name is a string. Okay, but this is how like programming language work. Instead of string, you can also say int. And at this time, it won't be Rahul. It will be 6. Cool. This is the meaning of final. Okay. Now, final and constant, you'll understand more about when we'll talk about the list, because they are like some pretty interesting related to final and constant when we talk about when we take it in like in the list cases. Okay. And let's talk about what's the difference between final and constant. We'll give an error right now. So the work of final and constant is same. It will give a permanent value throughout the whole runtime, throughout the whole procedure. But with name, you'll have to assign it at the time of declaration. Okay, and this was the difference between this and in final we were like declaring it first and then we were assigning the value. I mean, you can once again assign and declare at the same time, but like this feature, like declaration at the second step, we are assigning the value is not possible with the constant. With the constant, you'll have to declare and assign at the same time, and you won't be able to change this. And if it's string, you can tell that it's string. Okay, and if you like print it, you put it name, Rahul. Okay, and if you try to change its value, Mesh, it's not possible. It will give an error. So this is the difference between final and constant. Okay, there isn't much difference. The more difference you'll see in the when we will talk about list, because in list we have like adding any value to the list. Like if you have a list of 4 numbers, then you can add the fifth number in the final list. That's not possible with the constant. Okay, so you'll see the difference at the next level, at a more advanced level, when we'll talk about the list. Okay, so now you can see the difference between what's the difference between final and constant. Okay, when you are constant, like when you have permanent value, okay, throughout the whole process and throughout the whole runtime, this value won't be changed. And this is basically like when you have, for example, in real cases, when you have an identification number, you have a student ID. So we know that these values won't be changed. These are the permanent value. I'll say ID number one. So it is roll number one. So I know that roll number one will remain roll number one. And even if you have like 20211, just suppose that your college ID is this. So you know this is a static value. It will remain permanent throughout the whole process. It won't be changed. So just to you also don't get confused that roll number this is will remain same. That's why we are creating final. That's why we are creating constant. That's why we are not going with the normal integer, because when we are just using int name like this, when we are doing like int roll number, instead of spaces, write it in the same way or just go with this. Four. Okay, spaces will give error. Drawing language most of the time. Both are like the new thing. So roll number, and this roll number can be changed to five. Okay, but if you like do something like final capital roll number, a small roll number and capital roll number have a different value because this is case sensitive. Okay, it will give us 7. Okay, it's case sensitive. And when we try to do roll number equals to 8. It's giving an error. That's we are using even with final you can do and it won't give any error. So there's a difference between when we are using int and final int because this roll number can be changed. You can modify your roll number. Someone can play with your roll number. Someone can play with your student ID. Okay, but once we have done okay, roll number is 7, it will remain 7 throughout the whole process, throughout the whole execution, throughout the whole runtime. Okay, so these small words have like a particular value. That's it. That's the difference between. Similarly, you can do with constant also. Okay, you can similarly you can constant can be your string also. Your data type string can or constant can be your number. Constant can be a boolean value. Okay, it's giving an error like the final variable can only be set once. And this is legit. We know about this. Okay, so this thing is also done. Final constant one was difference. This is also done. So this is the quick recap. So firstly, we looked at Dartpad. If you don't want to use any ID, you just go through Dartpad. Then we talked about keyword. Then we discussed about identifier and data types, integer, string, and where, what was dynamic, what was final and constant, what was their difference. Okay. So in the next video, what we are going to do is we'll talk about control flows. We'll talk about conditional statements. We'll talk about iterations. Okay, so we are going to talk about if else, if, switch, while, do while, for, break, continue, these things. So that was it for today's topic, for today's video. See you again. See you once again in the next video.